Recording live from Dick Cheney's undisclosed location, this is Anxiety Monkeys, the podcast. I'm your host, Rob, and joining me here in studio is my lovely co-host, Michelle.
Hello, everyone.
So it's Saturday morning, November 7th, 2020, the year that never ends.
And the election that never ends.
And we still have no idea who's the president. We know who's leading the popular vote by about 4.5 million, but we still have no idea who gets the office. Now, I don't want to regurgitate what the networks are already covering. I figure if you wanted coverage from people who nominally know what they're doing, you'd be tuning into that. We're just a couple of ordinary, everyday people giving our opinions on what we're seeing. For what it's worth, I think this election's already in the bag. I think Joe Biden won it. We're just waiting for the final counts to come in and basically confirm what we already know. What I do want to talk about is what comes after. So how about it, Michelle? Where do you think we're going to be when the smoke clears?
I think Donald Trump is going to be refusing to leave the White House, and he's going to have to be dragged out by somebody.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because there's a bunch of ways that could play out. Now, my personal headcanon, the thing that I envision that gives me the giggles, is the idea of the Secret Service chasing him as he runs squealing through the White House, and then him being shot with tranquilizer darts and dragged out and unceremoniously dumped on the lawn.
I was thinking his own private security would be doing the honors of tranking him and dragging him out.
Well, now, that's an interesting picture because the president does get Secret Service protection for the rest of his life. So how cool would it be to have his own Praetorian Guard be the ones, sir, you've got to come with us. We got to lead you out. You're supposed to leave now. That would be fun.
And him just looking for secret tunnels and everything that are in the White House, and him trying to find a place to hide from everybody.
Or him barricaded in a White House bathroom, cell phone in hand, desperately tweeting, get me out of this, help me,
Him calling Roger Stone and Pence and everybody else to try to help him, even old Mitch McConnell.
That's a visual I like. I could stick with that. So, I think we've pretty much tapped that idea. Him being unceremoniously kicked out of the White House.
Or even better yet, him building like a barricade around the White House and bulldozer coming to have to knock down the wall that he's built around the White House.
Well, I guess that would be one way to get a wall built. So what else comes after? Him being thrown out of the White House is just the start of his troubles, I think. There are a couple of scenarios that I've heard floated. One being that he would attempt to pardon himself for whatever malfeasance he committed while he was in office.
Or have Pence do it.
Yeah, he could resign in December, let Pence become the president, and have him basically do a Gerald Ford, like what Gerald Ford did with Nixon, and pardon him.
Now, that would forgive him for some of the things that he seems to be accused of, but not everything.
Absolutely. The Southern District of New York has been investigating him since before he threw his hat in the ring to become president in the first place. And those charges are at the state level. So Pence couldn't pardon him, and he couldn't pardon himself for any crimes he committed that the state of New York may want to try him for.
And of course, not to mention any other civil matters that may come to rise at that time.
Yeah, presidential pardons don't work for lawsuits. So I think his goose is pretty much cooked on a legal front. It's just a question of, how that shakes out. The other thing I'm kind of interested in seeing, he currently owes something like $400 million to Deutsche Bank. Now, this is kind of a funny story, and I'll let anybody who's interested go to the New York Times for the details, but the long and short of it is basically that he had defaulted on one loan to Deutsche Bank, and they turned around and responded to this by lending him more money. So right now, the current state of play is that he owes them $400 million. Nobody knows how in the hell he's going to pay that off. He's basically making interest-only payments right now. So there's a very real possibility we could see Deutsche Bank seize a bunch of his property in the next couple of years for failure to pay that debt.
And of course, no bankruptcy judge is going to be like, "Oh, we forgive you. You are so poor you can't afford to pay any of this back." No judge is going to be doing that.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be any mercy. I think I think he's going to get a lot of his property seized because we don't really know his net worth. There's no reliable information on it. He talks a big game about being a billionaire, but A, I think most of his money's tied up in real estate, and B, I don't think his real estate holdings are worth nearly as much as he claims they are. So he's going to get his property seized. The other thing I'd like to see, and this isn't set in stone, but I'd love to see him get thrown off Twitter. It happened to Steve Bannon when he basically called for Dr. Fauci to be beheaded. I can't imagine that Trump's going to be able to control himself and avoid doing something stupid and get banned from Twitter. He's been protected by them the entire time he's been president, but that's coming to an end. That'll end probably January 30th, I think. So there's a very real possibility he could step wrong and get kicked from the site altogether, which would be kind of ironic. One of the rumors that I place a little credence in is the idea that he ran for president on kind of a goof, on this is a way to build my brand, not I actually want to be the president. And here he is doing everything he can do to destroy his brand, which leads me to wonder about his kids. Now, I think Ivanka will be okay. She'll probably end up doing merchandising deals for jewelry and fashion and, basically whatever she was doing before Trump got elected president. But Donald Jr. and Eric, where do you go, from here? They're no longer advisors. They're going to have to get real jobs. I figure the world of right-wing grifting is probably open to them. Same thing for Jared Kushner. He's been kind of Trump's go-to guy for doing everything that he couldn't assign to Mike Pence, apparently. He's going to have to get a real job again, too. So these are things I'm looking forward to seeing. So something else I kind of want to talk about. We took a bit of a break in recording here, and we were watching a little bit of CNN because it's the TV equivalent of doom scrolling. So one of Trump's advisors basically told CNN that Trump's going through a period of grieving, and that once the numbers come in, he's sure that Trump will do the right thing. Now, I've got a couple of thoughts on that. First being that we've had 4 years of Trump as president, and not once has he been able to do the right thing when he's been counted on to do so. The other thing that I want to point out is just how incredibly tone-deaf the talk of a period of grieving is in the midst of the fucking coronavirus pandemic. We've got, 250,000 some odd people dead that we know of? And he's going through a period of grieving because he lost the presidency? Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
And given his history, I mean, he's got a record of shown that he just is incapable of doing the right thing at any time. He does whatever just pops into his head, and I'm gonna throw a rant on Twitter, or I'm going to ignore all the health people telling me, wear mask and COVID.
Yeah, absolutely. If Trump had a forehead tattoo, it would be poor impulse control, which is a call out to Snow Crash for all you sci-fi fans out there. I guess the last thing I kind of want to talk about is the potential downfall of QAnon. I'm not going to go into what QAnon is. For all of you who are interested, I would recommend the podcast QAnon Anonymous if you want details. But with Trump being thrown out of office here shortly, I don't think there's anywhere really for them to go other than to regurgitate the same handful of Hollywood is full of pedophiles and demon worshippers conspiracy theory crap that they've been engaged in the last 4 years. I think they're going to lose a lot of traction because where do you go from here? Do you make the same baseless accusations with no evidence? I mean, if you look at their track record, they've got 4 years of predictions that they've made that have not at all ever panned out. The biggest one being that the storm is coming. And if by the storm is coming you mean Biden's going to flip Georgia, then yeah, I guess you're right. But beyond that, no, they've got nothing to really run on.
The only thing that they would have to run on would be the Democrats stole the election, and the Democrats are evil and corrupt and looking to be evil socialists.
Yeah, I could see them transitioning over to that, but I think they're going to take a hit in terms of numbers of people who follow them, not just because nothing they've said has panned out, and oh yeah, your guy lost the election, but also because they've been deplatformed across Facebook, Twitter. I think YouTube is finally starting to get hip and kick them off. So I think that might be another thing that doesn't go away entirely, but definitely takes a hit.
Doesn't mean that they can't come up with their own platform.
Yeah, they might come up with some new stuff. There are some grifters behind it who may transition. You know, Q, whoever he is, may continue with his baseless crap. I guess we'll see. Well, Michelle, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you for joining me here in studio,
Thank you for having me.
always. And folks, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/anxietymonkeys. That's MONKIES. You can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/anxietymonkeys. And you can find us at anchor.fm/anxietymonkeys.
Also, a big thank you to the Thinking Atheist crew, and nothing but love for y'all.
Yep, big thanks to you guys. And if you want to shoot us some crank mail, you can reach us at anxietymonkeys@gmail.com. Thank you again for listening. Have a great week.